It was a chilly night in the quaint town of Whimsyville, the kind of night that made you want to curl up by the fire with a good book and a cup of hot cocoa. The streets were deserted, and the only sounds were the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The warmth of the fireplace and the comfort of a cozy blanket seemed like the perfect way to spend such an evening. Instead, I, Detective Jack Spratt, was on my third cup of lukewarm coffee, staring at the blinking cursor on my laptop screen. The office was dimly lit, casting long shadows on the walls, and the air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and old paper. My desk was cluttered with case files, half-eaten sandwiches, and a magnifying glass that had seen better days. My stomach grumbled in protest. "Quiet, you," I muttered, patting my slightly protruding belly. "Don't you know a detective's work is never done?" I glanced at the clock on the wall, its hands moving ever so slowly, reminding me that the night was still young and there was much to be done. Just then, the phone on my desk rang, shattering the peaceful silence of my office. "Spratt here," I answered, my voice raspy from lack of sleep and too much coffee. The sound of the ringing phone was jarring, pulling me out of my thoughts and back into the reality of my dimly lit office. The voice on the other end of the line was frantic, high-pitched, and undeniably familiar. It belonged to Miss Priscilla Petunia, the eccentric owner of Whimsyville's most beloved and only novelty shop, the Giggle Garden. Miss Petunia was known for her quirky personality, and her shop filled with oddities and curiosities that never failed to amuse the townsfolk. And she sounded like she was about to have a conniption. This was going to be good. I leaned back in my chair, intrigued by what could have possibly rattled the unflappable Miss Petunia. "Calm down, Miss Petunia," I said, trying to soothe her. "Tell me what's going on." Her voice trembled as she began to explain, and I knew that this chilly night was about to get a lot more interesting. "Detective Spratt, thank heavens you're there!" Miss Petunia's voice was a flurry of panicked breaths, each one more frantic than the last. It was as if the very act of speaking was a race against time. "It's gone! Vanished! Disappeared into thin air!" Her words tumbled out in a chaotic rush, painting a picture of utter bewilderment. I could practically hear her wringing her hands through the phone, the anxiety palpable even across the distance. It was clear that whatever had happened had shaken her to the core. "Hold on, Miss Petunia," I said, trying to inject some calm into the situation. "What's gone exactly?" My mind raced through the possibilities, but nothing could have prepared me for her next words. There was a beat of silence, then a dramatic sniffle. "Turkington! He's gone!" Her voice cracked, the weight of the loss evident in every syllable. Now I'd had my fair share of strange cases in my time, but this one took the cake, or rather, the rubber chicken. I couldn't help but feel a mix of confusion and amusement. You see, Turkington wasn't a person. He was, in fact, a rather large, rather obnoxious-looking rubber turkey, the unofficial mascot of Miss Petunia's shop. He was a fixture in the community, a symbol of the quirky charm that defined Whimsyville. Why anyone would steal a rubber turkey was beyond me, but then again, Whimsyville had a way of throwing curveballs. It was a town where the unexpected was the norm, and nothing was ever quite as it seemed. "All right, Miss Petunia, calm down. Tell me everything." I needed to get to the bottom of this, to understand the full scope of the situation. Every detail, no matter how small, could be a crucial piece of the puzzle. Miss Petunia began to recount the events leading up to Turkington's disappearance. She paced back and forth in her shop, her mind racing as she tried to piece together the mystery. It was just after closing time, she explained, and she had been tidying up the shop. The clock on the wall ticked away the seconds, each one bringing her closer to the moment she realized something was amiss. She had turned around to find Turkington's usual spot empty. Panic set in immediately, and she searched every nook and cranny of the shop, hoping against hope that he had simply been misplaced. I took notes as she spoke, my mind working to connect the dots. There had to be a reason behind this bizarre theft, a motive that made sense in the topsy-turvy world of Whimsyville. One thing was certain: I was going to find Turkington and bring him back. Whimsyville might be a town of oddities, but even here, justice had to prevail. With a determined look, I headed out the door, ready to tackle the mystery head-on. The game was afoot, and I was on the case. Miss Petunia, in between gasps and sighs, explained the situation. Turkington, she claimed, wasn't just any rubber turkey. He was a limited edition, collector's item, a prized possession that had been passed down through generations of Petunias. He's irreplaceable, Detective Spratt. My heart and soul, the very essence of the Giggle Garden. I could hear the desperation in her voice. Stealing Turkington was like stealing the town's sense of humor. It's very whimsy. This wasn't just a theft, it was an assault on the town's spirit. I assured Miss Petunia I'd do everything I could to bring Turkington home. After all, I was Whimsyville's finest and only detective. Hanging up the phone, I grabbed my trusty fedora and trench coat. Time to put my detective skills to the test. The Giggle Garden was a sight to behold, a riot of color and kitsch. The air inside was thick with the scent of bubblegum and old books. Miss Petunia, a tiny woman with a cloud of purple hair and a penchant for feather boas, greeted me with a teary hug. "Oh, Detective Spratt, you're our only hope." My investigation began with the usual suspects. Mayor Mildred McMillan, known for her love of all things whimsical. Could she have added Turkington to her collection of garden gnomes? Old Man Withers, the town curmudgeon, notorious for his dislike of anything remotely cheerful. Could he be behind Turkington's disappearance? And the mysterious newcomer, a quiet, brooding artist who'd recently moved to town. Was he hiding a dark secret? Perhaps a penchant for rubber poultry? The clues were as plentiful as they were perplexing. A single red feather found near the cash register, a half-eaten plate of cheese and crackers, Turkington's favorite, according to Miss Petunia, and a cryptic message scrawled on a piece of bubblegum wrapper. The turkey flies at dawn. Each clue seemed to point me in a different direction, only to lead to a dead end. Was I dealing with a mastermind or a prankster with a strange sense of humor? Days turned into nights, and nights into days. My sleep became filled with dreams of rubber turkeys chasing me through a maze of novelty shop aisles. Just when I was about to lose hope, a breakthrough. While reviewing the security footage for the 100th time, I noticed something I'd missed before. A fleeting shadow, a blur of movement just as Turkington vanished from the frame. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was enough. I had my culprit. The culprit? A stray dog, a scruffy little terrier with a penchant for mischief and a nose for trouble. This little rascal had been causing quite a stir in the neighborhood for weeks. Known for his cunning and agility, he had become somewhat of a local legend. He'd apparently developed a fondness for Turkington, the beloved rubber turkey, and decided to make off with him. It wasn't just any toy. Turkington was a prized possession, a symbol of countless joyful moments. Following a trail of feathers and the occasional discarded chew toy, I embarked on a mission to retrieve Turkington. Each clue felt like a breadcrumb leading me closer to the mischievous thief. I tracked the furry fiend to the town park. The park, usually a place of relaxation, had now turned into a battleground of wits between man and beast. There, amidst the giggling children and picnicking families, the scene was almost surreal. The normalcy of the park contrasted sharply with the absurdity of my quest. And there he was, Turkington, held hostage in the clutches of the four-legged bandit. The terrier's eyes gleamed with mischief, as if daring me to take a step closer. What followed was a scene straight out of a slapstick comedy, a chaotic yet hilarious pursuit that seemed to defy all logic. Me, a grown man, chasing a small dog across a crowded park, weaving through the throngs of people who watched in amusement and confusion, tripping over picnic blankets and dodging flying frisbees. I felt like I was in a live-action cartoon. Each obstacle seemed to conspire against me, adding to the comedic value of the chase. All for a rubber turkey. But to me, it was more than just a toy. It was a mission, a test of determination, and perhaps a bit of pride. The chase was on, and I was not about to let a scruffy terrier outsmart me. After much maneuvering and a few near collisions, I apprehended the culprit and recovered Turkington. The little dog, looking sheepish but strangely proud of himself, was returned to his owner, a sweet old lady who was mortified by her pet's antics. Turkington, thankfully unharmed but slightly worse for wear, was reunited with Miss Petunia. Her joy was a sight to behold. "Oh, Detective Spratt, you're a hero! I can't thank you enough." Word of my daring rescue spread through Whimsyville like wildfire. I was hailed as a hero, a legend in my own time. From that day forward, I became known as the Turkey Saver, a title I wore with a mixture of pride and amusement. And as for Turkington, he was back in his rightful place, perched proudly on the counter of the Giggle Garden, a constant reminder of the day he almost became a fugitive. Yes, it was a chilly night in Whimsyville, but thanks to yours truly, it turned out to be a pretty entertaining one.